Hey guys. Alright, so today we're going to move on to lesson 2 of our value unit. We're going to be making forms today, and the form we're going to create is a sphere. So remember, as always, whenever you guys are doing blended value, which means we're doing it with pencil today, means that you guys want to make sure that you're using a number 2 wooden pencil. So to complete this lesson, you guys are going to do this inside of your value sketchbook. Remember, on the front it should have your name, it should have the title, which is value sketchbook, and it should have the due date. This is going to be due Friday, August 21st. We're going to be doing a sphere. So we're going to start with a circle. Now, I don't want you guys to cheat and take a cup or take something round and trace it. The reason is that I care more that you guys are trying to do it and do it on your own than to be cheating and to use something else. So I'm going to show you some techniques on how to do a circle fairly well. Alright, so we're going to make sure that we're starting on page 2. Remember, you should have page 2 written down in that bottom left-hand corner. Like I said before, we want to start with a circle. So to make a circle, you guys want to start by drawing just very lightly. And you just keep going around and around and around in circles until you find something that looks kind of circular-like. It's okay if it's not a perfect circle. A perfect circle is pretty hard to make. Actually, it's scientifically impossible to make, so don't feel bad if it's not perfect. What we're also going to do is we're going to give our circle, which we're going to turn into a sphere, we're going to give it something to sit on. So we're going to put a just straight line going just behind the back of it right here, just like that. Now remember, when you guys are shading in something, you guys always want to make sure that you do very light lines. The only time that anything ever has complete outlines around it is when we're looking at cartoons. So we want to go for more realism here. Now, in order to have shadow, we need to have light. So we're going to have our light come from right here, the top right-hand corner. Now, if our light's coming from here, as we've learned, there is a highlight, which should be about here. And on the opposite side, we're going to have the darkest part of our form, which is our core shadow. We're going to draw that so it kind of looks like a crescent moon right here, or a Cheshire Cat smile. Remember, draw them in really lightly, don't make them really dark. Now you want to use those proper pencil techniques. I'm going to erase some of this. Those proper pencil techniques so that you can make sure that your value is nice and blended and that you don't have streaky marks. So we don't want to go back and forth like this. When you guys are shading something, you want to make sure you're following the shape of the form. Since our form is going to be a sphere and it's round, we're going to make sure that our pencil strokes are going in this, kind of like this crescent moon, going up and down in that same circular motion. So we're going to start up here, and you want this to be the lightest that you can possibly make it. So I'm actually going to make this a little lighter so you don't see it as much. And just on the outside, I'm just going to very lightly, I'm going to hold really far back on my pencil so I'm not tempted to push too hard. And using just very small, see those little circular motions? I'm going to start filling this in. So I'm going to fill it in kind of a smile shape. There's really no discernible difference between here and here. And there's kind of a big jump between this side and this side. So that little line in between, I'm going to go over it very gently, and I'm just going to blend them together so that it's not such a drastic change. And I'm just going to add another layer over the top here so that this starts to get a little bit darker. Because if it's not getting darker, then I'm not properly doing my value. I'm still doing those circular motions with my pencil. I'm not going back and forth. See, I'm just doing them very quickly. So anywhere that I can see a visible difference, like here to here, I'm going to go over that seam, that area where those two collide, and I'm just going to very lightly go over it and blend them together until it's a little bit less of a drastic jump. Stop doing those circular motions as you're coloring it in, because if you start using back and forth, just regular how you would normally shade something, it's going to flatten it out and it's going to ruin the effect that this is supposed to be a ball or a sphere. check it again, see if everything looks like it's blending. Right here looks like there's a little bit of a white spot, so I'm just going to very lightly go over it with those little circular motion marks and fill it in. Now don't smudge. The reason we don't smudge is that you guys are just starting out, and it's more important to learn how to use your pencil correctly than to start off with bad habits. And smudging ends up being a bad habit because most people don't do it correctly, and they end up just smudging everything, and then it looks like it's a big oily mess. And we don't want that. You want it to look nice and clean, and it is important to have some of that texture from your pencil in there. So do not smudge. I will know if you do, and you will get marked down points if you smudge. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now the darkest area of our form is our core shadow, this smiley shape right here. We're gonna make this pretty much as dark as you can make it. I mean, don't hurt your hand while you're coloring in. You still wanna use that circular motion. So we're gonna go ahead and make this as dark as you can. Okay, so I have that all filled in. Now, you might notice it doesn't blend very well. So as you might have guessed, I'm going to go over this seam right here where it jumps from one color to the next, and I'm just going to very lightly go over it with my pencil with those circular motions. And I'm going to blend them together so that it blends a little bit better. This area is called our cast shadow. The reason it's called a cast shadow is because the light that's being shown down, so our light coming from here, is going to catch on our object, which is why it's shaded the way that it is, and it's going to cast a shadow from that object onto the ground that our object is sitting on. And that object is why we have this line in the background, this horizon line. That line is going to serve as a table or a floor, whatever you want to imagine that it is. So we have our highlight, we have our transitional light that goes into our core shadow, and then we have a little bit of our reflected light here. So now we're going to do our cast shadow. So as I said, it's because of our light coming down this way, it's going to hit our sphere right here. It's going to cast a shadow going down this way. Now anytime you want something to look flat, since this is a circular form, we're going to have a circular shadow, but instead of a perfect circle, to make it look like it's flat, when we take a circle and we turn it to the side, it turns into an oval or an ellipse. So we're going to draw an ellipse. That means it's an oval. It's going to be a little flatter here. I'm going to have it come out just like this. Now, if you guys remember from the presentation and our lecture, this area, our cast shadow, is going to be the darkest area on our whole page. So we're going to go in, and this you don't have to do your little circles. You can if you would like to. I usually do just because it's become habit for me. I'm going to go around my shape and I'm going to outline it pretty dark. That way I can make sure that I can stay outside of that. Now we want it darker, closer to our object, so closer to our sphere. And I'm going just back and forth horizontally. That way it looks like it's laying flat. So horizontal means left to right, not up and down. And I'm going to keep it a lot darker where we're closer. And there you go. We have our sphere, which is a 2D circle, just shaded in with a full range of value from our highlight, which is a number 0, all the way to our cast shadow and our core shadow, which are probably number 5s on our grayscale. So if you need to go back and practice this, I suggest you do that now. Tomorrow we'll be working on a couple other shapes in class, so make sure you get this down pretty well. Try moving your light source around. Instead of coming from the upper right, try having it come from the upper left or even from the very top. Thank you.